somebody called it. There was an accident near us, and the crane had fallen in the water. So we had to go out to salvage this equipment from underwater.
You began as a recreational company, and you've now since expanded into any kind of service related to diving.
Poni Divers for recreational diving, Poni Marine for maritime industries and doing services for that. And then we've Poni Adventures, water sports, but we also do corporate team building.
It's just a few things I want to point out here.
Yeah.
So Thye and Anna are married.
Yes.
So unto itself, that's a whole other podcast. So welcome to Takeaways by Biz Brunei, brought to you by Dare, where we hope to open the box and have some real juicy conversation with some of our local SMEs and business owners, particularly those who've been a part of the BMEN program. Now, that's an impact initiative brought to you by Dare, which stands for Brunei Mentors for Entrepreneurs Network. And you can either be a mentee or a mentor. So our conversations over the next few weeks will be with either mentees or mentors of this very significant network. And today we're joined by Thye and Anna. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jenny.
So Thye and Anna are mentees of the BMEN program, and they've got such an interesting history in terms of their business journey. They are the founders, the owners, the everythingers of a company called the Poni Group. And today we want to unpack with Thye and Anna some of the things they wish they knew about starting a business. Because a lot of us want to go into business, have started a business, and we can find ourselves in out of our depth. But first of all, Thye and Anna, I'm going to be very honest with you, like a fish out of water. The Poni Group, what exactly is it you do? You've had such an incredible journey of growth, but for the normal people out there, at a basic level, what is the Poni Group all about?
Right. Poni Group, well, we've actually grown to do a lot of different things now. So I think probably a bit more of a lengthy explanation. But I think everybody knows us as Poni Divers. So that's all over social media, Facebook and Instagram all the time. So we do a lot of recreational diving. We bring tourists out diving. We teach people to scuba dive. From there, we sort of grew into doing water sports. We do all the same things you do in KK when you go on holiday, the jet ski, banana boat, kayaking, parasailing. And that one we've been doing at Rasa Beach for a long time. And I think a few years after we sort of started the business back in 2009, so we were doing the water sports, then we started doing some commercial services as well. I think we had our first sort of project. Somebody called and said there was an accident near us, and the crane had fallen in the water, and it had pulled a lot of equipment into the water. And this was sort of in the evening, like 5 or 6. So we had to go out to help with this emergency response to salvage this equipment from underwater. And that was, from there we sort of went, well, this is it's quite interesting. There isn't a lot of people doing this. And so we grew from there to now include a range of activities. We do hull inspections, underwater construction. We've even been involved with some body recovery projects as well. A lot of bridge underwater inspections.
Search and recovery.
Yeah. So the range of services that we've grown through our commercial services is actually really wide. We do some support services as well for the port and also for some of the activities at the island at PMV. And I think recently we've started looking at some sort of technology and communication solutions through a new division that we're looking at. And this is just part of our phase as we move through sort of our business cycle, trying to find a product that is maybe less competitive. And that new division we're working on is called the Astari.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you began as a recreational company,
Yes.
and you've now since expanded into any kind of service related to diving.
Yes, to the marine.
Diving more, the marine industry. So like Thye mentioned, Poni Divers for recreational diving, Poni Marine for our maritime and maritime industries and doing services for that. And then we've also Poni Adventures. So Poni Adventures, what Thye mentioned was water sports, but we also do corporate team building. So we also do a lot of B2B businesses as well with that.
Yeah, with corporate team building, quite interesting. We actually just started out back in the day with some banks calling us and saying, hey, let's do some water sports. And we go, okay, well, while we're doing some water sports at the island, can we try and run a few games for you? So we did some survival games. We said, let's build a raft and let's race the raft. And everybody had a lot of fun with that. So we started expanding our range of activities through there as well. And this sort of how this business sort of grew. I mean, it was sort of, people called us and said, hey, can you do this? And we were like, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So being a young business owner, I think I started this business back in, I think I was 24, 25 years old, without that much reservations about what you can or cannot do. So it was a lot of yes to everything that came in.
Yeah, I think you can see it's just been quite an organic growth as well. So we just leaning on our capabilities, our assets, our people. And from diving, we just moved on to commercial diving from all these people that we had from doing these away days or these team buildings. We just grew the company, and that's how it really grew.
Well, I want to come back to your one point, Thye. You were saying how people call you up and say, hey, can you do this?
Yes.
And you were like, yeah, we can do it.
Do it.
But actually, you probably didn't know that you could do it. So in terms of our business owners out there, they're going to be in this situation too. You're going to be doing things you have no idea.
You got to fake it to make it.
So tell us a little bit about the reality of that. You don't always know what you're doing.
Right. I think we definitely didn't do something that was totally unrelated.
Yeah.
For example, we weren't selling somebody a computer. We sort of banked on our assets and our strength. We had a lot of boats in the water. We had staff with a lot of outdoor experience. We had assets that allow us to do work, to do things underwater. And so it was just really expanding and finding different ways to utilize our strengths and our assets. There have been definitely some projects which have been a little more out there, I think, in terms of what we have not yet done. How we sort of worked with that was we definitely had more of a discussion on whether it was feasible for us, first of all. Quite a bit of research, I think, went into how other people do it. And we often looked outside of Brunei. When we started expanding our team building activities, for example, we looked at North America. There is a lot of really good team building activities that have been around, very sophisticated products. So we were looking at how they did their team building there, and we said, how can we bring some of these products and these type of activities to what we have here? Some of the challenges that they're doing indoors were like, well, we're an outdoor company. Can we do the same things that they're doing with experiential learning to our outdoor activities? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was what have leaders in other countries been doing, and how can we do that here using what we have? And that was how we looked at sort of doing these things which we have not yet done before.
So before you start a business, we're all told, have a business plan, get clear on the vision. How true to your original business plan were you several years down the road? Because again, we're all told to do that, right?
Yeah.
Show us your business plan.
Right, yes. I think going into business, there are some people who obviously made the plan. They're like, okay, well, I want to do business, or I'm going to stop my 9 to 5 and I want to go into entrepreneurship. For me, I think my journey into that has been maybe more of an accident. Growing up, I've always sort of thought of myself as doing business. Like even 12 or 13 years old, I remember I went down to Miri, and they had these FUBU. They had these hip hop clothes.
Hip hop clothes.
FUBU, really baggy clothes, which nobody was wearing in Brunei yet. And I was
This
like,
90s, yeah.
Yes.
yeah, alien jeans.
Yeah.
And I go, I want to open that in Brunei, and I would do so well. And I was 12 or 13, and I was thinking about these kind of things. And I don't know whether people remember about Counter-Strike, the huge wave of cyber cafes in Brunei.
Yes.
So I went down to Miri with my friend, and I was probably 14, and I was playing Counter-Strike. Then I was like, wow, I would love to do this in Brunei. I would make so much money. And nobody was doing it yet. A year later, obviously, then all the Netcom came and did all these cyber cafes, and they did pretty well with that. So I've always been thinking about business in that sense of what can you introduce, what can you sort of bring in that's different. But I sort of had the maybe more traditional route. I finished school. I was doing my university degree in Canada in economics. Along the way, I sort of thought, okay, well, I want to try and work on Wall Street in finance. So how do I move in that direction? But 2000.
Wait, did you make money on the FUBU outfits?
No.
Oh, that was a no-go.
No.
So the learning
it just
of that
stayed in my head.
It never materialized.
It never materialized. Yes.
But the thought was there.
The thought was there. Yes. So in Canada, I was working in finance, but in 2008 there was a global financial crisis, and the place I worked at went bankrupt. So I came back to Brunei, and I didn't really know what to do. And I think a lot of people do go through that a little bit when you've lost a job, the industry changes, or you've just graduated. So I had a lot of thinking of what I was going to do. I could have gone to apply for a bank, or gone to China, or gone back to Canada, but I set up a dive club in Brunei, which was something that I've always been passionate about. I started a dive club in Canada. It was an award-winning dive club. It actually became one of the largest dive clubs in Canada when I was there at my university. And I sort of started a dive club here in Brunei. I was helping my friend to set up a dive center here with the idea that I was eventually going to go back into corporate in Canada. But obviously, as we now know, that never happened. So it just sort of grew from dive shop to water sports to commercial services to now everything else.
So there was no business plan.
No business plan.
And the conclusion is there was never any business plan.
Yeah. I think as well with a business plan, you have to also adapt. I mean, like, you may go into thinking like, right, I want to start off just by doing diving, recreational diving, but over the years it sort of like changes. Well, you've got to be adaptive and be agile in a way of like take the opportunities to grow in other areas as well that you may have not thought of. Yeah.
So there's two things there, okay? I want to unpack two things. You mentioned about you're passionate about diving, so therefore you started this business without business plan. Mm-hmm. Just a feeling. I know, Anna, you also come from an entrepreneurial background. You did have a foray into healthy food.
Yes, healthy food, yeah.
So perhaps it didn't last or work as well as you'd hope, because we're here today in celebrating a successful business.
Yeah.
But for our business owners out there, how important is it that you connect with your original product or services? Do you have to be passionate about that?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, I did started off with a healthy food business. So previous to that, I actually was in the UK. I was doing business management, hotel management. Actually, I was there for 10 years. I came back to Brunei, applied for jobs, couldn't really find any jobs, and that's kind of where like Hip and Healthy came about. There wasn't really much healthy food business at that time, and I think Instagram businesses were just sort of like kicking off, and people were doing like fairs and pop-ups and everything. So it was really a great way for me to start to test the waters. And it's great because like a lot of businesses in Brunei do test the waters via Instagram. So it grew from there, and I started doing cold pressed juices. I did like yoga retreats in Brunei as well as in KK. And actually that is also how I met Thye, because we did a free diving and yoga retreat there as well.
And I like that.
Yes. And then, so as I was, as Hip and Healthy started to grow, I became a managing partner at the Energy Kitchen, which was also doing healthy food business, and they had a more bricks and mortar shop. So rather than just be doing it from home, I was able to do my healthy food in the Energy Kitchen. Then I met Thye, and he lured me and took me away and asked me, said like, hey, I need help, restructuring my business. I said like, would you be interested? I said like, well, I've got to think about it first, because obviously I've sort of built this brand up.
Yes.
And, I actually had desires to grow it a little bit more and sort of like take it to market further. But I think with Poni, I could definitely see so much potential, and I think we work very well together. And I said, like,
Fortunately.
Fortunately, we work very well together. And I said, like, okay, let me try it out for 3 months first, and see how it works. And actually, from there, I just stayed on board. Yeah.
It's just a few things I want to point out here.
Yeah.
So Thye and Anna are married.
Yes.
So unto itself, that's a whole other podcast. But I think back then to the issue of being passionate. So, and I know you've been instrumental in kind of shaping the business, and I know you were instrumental in implementing processes and kind of keeping things on the straight and narrow. I know Thye, chong, his brain is operating at 200 miles an hour. So you came in, kept it on the straight and narrow. Yet diving, is it your passion? Does it matter that it's not your passion?
Yeah, actually, I my first started to learn to dive actually in Cuba, not even in Brunei. And even when I met Thye, I never actually dived in Brunei first. But like you mentioned, like you don't actually have to be passionate in the things. You have to have business knowledge as well. If you're business knowledge, you want to be able to know how the business works. And at the end of the day, business is a people's project, basically, right?
Yes.
You have to be in the business of people. You've got to train them. You've got to work with them. You've got to invest in them. You've got to retain them. You've got to attract them. It's you are in the business of people when you're in business. And when I came on board, I remember Thye said like, oh, he just hired people without actually interviewing them. He would just get,
who are you?
he would just get anyone. It's like, come on,
yes.
come and join Poni Divers.
First day. You want to work, start tomorrow.
Just start tomorrow. And I said, no, you got to build. You have to be careful. You got to build the culture. You got to make sure you hire the right people, because it takes so much time to hire them and then retrain them and then hire them again. And so it really was about trying to build and shape the business and culture of Poni, really.
I am fascinated.
Yeah.
So a lot of our small businesses are going to begin with one person. They're going to begin with a Thye.
Yeah.
How important is it to choose who your partner is going to be? Because obviously she's a sensible one here, Thye. How crucial was this partnership to the growth of the business?
Yeah, I think that's going to tie into a couple things, which you mentioned a little bit about business plan as well.
Yes, which you didn't have.
Yes. So when I started the business, I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
And it was just, week after week. I lived at the shop for the first year. Like the classroom was my bedroom. And, we would work 7 a.m. till 3 a.m. just every day. It was a little bit more difficult than maybe some other business startups because scuba diving was so new in Brunei. It was a pioneer industry, started by a young guy with not a lot of work experience, a lot of great ideas, but not a lot of actual work, business experience, and not much cash because I had not planned to start the business. There was no business plan calculating how much I was going to make and how much money I needed and ROI and who my team should be. It was just, well, I'm gonna help my friend set up a dive center. He pulled out and I'm like, well, my name is in the newspaper saying I'm gonna open a dive center. I've spent some money and it's here. So I'm like, well, you're asking for a job, just start tomorrow. You want to just start tomorrow. And we started with 10 people and none of them knew what scuba diving was. Nobody could scuba dive. So in a way, I probably am one of the best persons to tell you what not to do when
Right.
starting the business.
Yes. But yet, Thye, yes, but yet today you are doing so very well, which is why I had trouble connecting. But I can identify with this little kind of messy ad hoc startup
Yeah.
situation.
I think as well, like in the early days, Thye did everything by himself. He would drive the boat, he would train the
Teach.
staff, he would teach as well. He was like sort of this one-man show. And I think in the beginning, when people start business, you have to wear many hats. You have to be able to, multitask
Yes.
and be able to run the business, because you won't necessarily have the staff straight away, but you will have to be, once you start off to grow, then you're able to hire the staff, because, that's basically.
Well, why did you
business.
do everything by yourself? Because
Oh,
people weren't quick enough to come join you?
No, because people just people didn't know how to scuba dive. I had 10 people that didn't know how to scuba
Okay.
dive running a dive center with me. So I had to teach them when we were free, which we were not very free yet in the beginning of the business. So it took some time to train while I was running the business at the same time, because the business had already started without a plan, right?
Of course it did.
I had already advertised saying, hey, we're running scuba diving, but I wasn't actually ready. So there was actually a lot of problems in the beginning of the business. There were people saying that we were going to close down in the early years, and probably that, pushed me a little bit harder to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
It was, to be honest, quite a rocky start in the business in the beginning, because we did not have a business plan.
Yeah.
I did not try to find any mentor, or I did not sort of look outside for some advice. I sort of just lived at the shop and
Yeah.
just
Did
worked.
everything yourself.
And just worked.
Yeah.
Yes. Now my dad runs a business, and he told me, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and I'm just like, no, you're just an old Chinese uncle doing business who doesn't know anything. I'm gonna do it my way. So.
Yeah.
But he did know something.
But yes, I'm sure some of those things probably could have helped a bit more had I
Yeah.
listened to them early on.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned as well, there were a lot of naysayers in the beginning. So like, oh, you're not gonna last, you're not gonna make it for after 5 years, you're gonna shut down. And
2 years.
2 years, yeah, 2 years. And I think a lot of when you tell people that you're going to start up business, sometimes you will get this sort of like backlash and people not supportive, and yet other times you will have people who support you. You have in business, I think you have to sort of like drown that outside noise out and go with it and take risk, right? I think that's what Thye did. Thye's a risk taker, if anything.
A lot of yes, and that probably didn't need to be a yes.
Do you suppose there's a certain personality more identified to be an entrepreneur?
I think certain traits would help you. I think when you talk about these sort of certain traits, for example, the smartest person that was born didn't necessarily become successful. There were some people that had IQ that was way through the roof. They did not become very successful people.
Why not, do you suppose?
Well, first was maybe they just didn't want to be successful. Success is defined by many different ways.
Yeah.
But there were also some case studies where they actually didn't lead a very successful life, as in they ended up broke and homeless, despite being very, very intelligent. I think sort of traits or innate abilities bring you only so far. And then once you get to a certain stage, that's when a lot of assistance is very important. A lot of support, getting the right team involved,
Yeah.
and getting the right experience involved. So I think when I started the business, there was a lot of hiccups. We tried to go from 10-person business to 20-person business in 2014. We tried to go up to 30-person business in 2016, and it just didn't work. It failed. There was quite a bit of HR issues and communication issues. So we had to downsize again the year and then grow again the following year. So this was along the same time as we were trying to grow the business organically, without any plan, by whatever the clients are requesting, which again probably is not the best way, but it was the reality of the business. We said this was the only growth plan that we could see that we had the time to deal with, which was somebody's asking for something and we'll try and work on it. And so this was sort of the scenario where Anna sort of came in, and I said, I'm trying to restructure the business because more than half of our business in 2016 was coming from commercial services. And we just didn't have the brand or the structure or the infrastructure to deal with it very well. So I said, please come and help my business for 3 months. You know, like I knew it definitely wasn't going to be 3 months, but I said, let's just get her in first. and we definitely needed, you know, I think Anna's come from a more corporate background.
Yeah.
There's like 15 years in London with hotel development or something,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And
Something, yeah.
and I just didn't have that background.
Yeah.
And that definitely helped in terms of moving the business to the in the direction that we wanted to go in terms of structure, in terms of hiring. There was then an interview process.
Did she pass?
Oh no, I mean there was an interview process for the staff coming in.
Yes.
So you passed it, and then you initiated the hiring process.
Yes, yeah. Well, I didn't have to go through an interview. He just said, he hired me on the spot. He just
Connected.
said, I need a, you know, you need to help me grow the business.
Yeah.
So like, I said, okay, I'll try for 3 months. And then that's when we started to interview, you know, like.
Well, we were speaking about that earlier on, about when it comes to running a business, we all think that we should be cloning ourselves to get the most out of the business. It doesn't sound as though you are a clone at all. In fact, that's probably one of the beautiful aspects of it, that she's so different to you. And therefore, the business is able to grow based on not your similarities, but your absolute differences. So talk to us a little bit about how important that is for people who wish they knew this starting a business, how important it is to put in the right people who aren't just carbon copies of you.
Right. I think in hindsight, if I had known how much time I would have spent on dealing with staff, HR, I would have probably hired a very experienced HR manager in the earlier days, because that definitely held us back quite a bit. HR issues, staffing issues. But I think that really goes to say, like, having sort of the right team is very important from the get-go, and that's what I've always consistently told a lot of other people that are starting businesses. Get the right team. Don't do what I did. Don't just hire people off the street, anybody that just come in. But you really figuring out what your business needs to deliver the product and service that you want, and then finding the people to fit that mold. I think what I did, which everyone told me was a mistake, but I kept saying I'm just going to keep doing it, was I hired people, and then I'm like, well, what can they do in my business? You know?
As opposed to you telling them what they should be doing.
Well, when somebody wanted to work at Poni, and I'm like, okay, should just start tomorrow, and then when they started, I'm like, well, what can you do? And then let's see how you fit into my business.
Wow.
It was a little bit different, as opposed to maybe having, you know, key roles and team structures and thinking about who's going to fit into where.
To what you need.
Yes.
Yes. So it was a lot of that in the beginning. Now, obviously, having gone through a lot of this, we now obviously know how important it is to have the right people in the right positions. And we've been able to grow successfully in the last few years because we have the right person in admin and HR, in our operations, in our safety.
HSE.
And we're able to then now identify people who are more well-suited through the interview process.
Yeah, not just me. I'm not just the one interviewing, but I think having that interview process was, key to getting the right people and to get the culture. You know, because it was a change. Moving from a small business to a medium-sized business, it was a big change because people were still thinking sort of, we are still a small business, we'll just WhatsApp, or it was very informal. I mean, of course, we're still quite informal anyway, but we had more structure to doing things as well. So that was key, really.
So I'm kind of getting a sense now. I'm seeing Thye now in his little shorts, getting sunburned, teach people how to dive, to now you have this full outfit of 40 strong people with these processes. How important were some of the programs that you underwent under either BMEN or DARE to help you get to this stage? Is it important that you find these tools, these support systems?
Right. Yeah, these tools, I think, came in especially during a really important time in the business.
And which tools are we speaking about, Thye?
The BMEN and the DARE tools.
Yes. The
Yeah.
DARE Standard Consultancy Program. Yeah.
And we, like the earlier question, did we have a business plan? No. We tried to grow, I think, our business in Brunei. Instead of sort of saying, hey, we want to grow the business, I think we did not have a choice but to grow the business in the earlier stages of the business. Because Brunei is a very challenging market in terms of market size. It's only 400,000 people. Even if you made the best and product in the world, if you're only selling to 400,000 people, you're not going to go very far, even if you had the best service. And these were a couple of the things that I was looking at, which was in terms of scalability and replicability. When I was looking at my business now, when we start to try and think, how do we grow it? But in earlier days, we said, we're just not profitable doing recreational diving. So let's do water sports. We're not profitable just doing water sports because there isn't enough tourists. So then we started doing commercial services. So instead of having a business plan that's like, think forward, we had no choice in a way but to grow, because it just was not profitable enough for the vision that we sort of saw with the business. So we did a lot of products, a lot of services. Ideally, if you had the right market size, it would have been better to focus on a single product. But we just did not have the luxury of that in Brunei. So that sort of, over the years, we've expanded to do a number of things. And when we started growing to these other services and commercial services, then that's where we started to try to engage experts, consultants, accountants, lawyers, and some of these I would also recommend straight away.
Yeah.
Do that early on in your first years, not try to clean up the mess 10 years later of the organic growth of the business.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, it comes back to the tools. So I think it was in 2017, 2018?
No, 2019.
But we started
Using...
getting involved with DARE. I think back even 2018, we started hearing about some of the programs and discussing with them a little bit, right?
Yes, I think DARE launched the first standard consultancy program. So this is for where businesses wanted to, take on international standards such as the ISO 9001, which focuses on quality, or the ISO 45001, which focuses on health and safety. So we actually started off doing the ISO 9001 back in 2019. So we were first cohort, I think, or first or second cohort?
First, I think, yes.
First cohort. And it really helped us because it streamlined our business processes. We had to, like Thye mentioned, as we were growing all these different services, we needed a way to sort of like structure it in a way that, okay, well, these are the processes, these are our SOPs, this is the qualities that we want to show to our customers, to say that we are quality services, whether we're doing water sports, whether we're doing team building, whether we're doing diving, how do we deal with the customers? So with the DARE Consultancy Program, SCP program, they got a consultant in for us, and it would have cost a lot more, but because we were part of this program, we were able to share ideas with the consultant, talk about how we would, structure our business, how to look at our documentation, what kind of information that we needed to bring the business forward. And it's talking about continuous improvement. We're continuously improving. We're not just stuck on the status quo. We have to always be improving. So these sort of tools allowed us to grow the business. And because of this ISO 9001, we then later on in 2020, I think 2020.
Started in 2020.
We started in 2020 to do the ISO 45001. It took a while because of COVID. We had other pressing matters such as how to run the business and get finance the rest of the business during this really hard time. But because we went through this process with the ISO 9001, we were able to do it with the ISO 45001, and we were able to, deal with this mammoth task of doing all this documentation, health and safety, changing the culture. This was big stuff, and we wouldn't have been able to do this on our own if it wasn't for DARE. And entrepreneurs, businesses alike, should use these tools that DARE offer, that are available for us to use so that they can bring their business forward. Yeah.
I think running a business is very challenging, technically, strategically, but also psychologically.
Yes.
And perhaps it's part of our culture that it's hard for us to reach out and say, I need help, whether it's just having a really bad day or, as you said, these bigger tools. And I think if we can just make people feel more comfortable with the fact that there are all these tools available, and it's only a good thing when you go out there and you seek out the help, and it's absolutely all there for you. Did that make you cry, Thye? We know we're trying to elicit some emotion today. Yeah?
Yes. Just to quickly add on that, I think when you brought up a question just now about when we say yes a lot to things which we may not be aware of, and what is the process involved with that. There are actually a lot of services in Brunei where people do say yes, and there's no substance behind it because they just copy whatever's out there without putting a lot of effort into delivering something that's high quality. Now, we did say yes a lot, but we put in a lot of extra effort to deliver something that's high quality. It comes back to the ISO in a bit. Yes. And we sort of try and bring in these international standards with some of the products. And I always repeatedly tell my staff, I said, we're a young business. We're trying to expand into different sectors. We have more to prove than some of these other older, more established companies when we're doing these services. So when they're, they might be happy with a simple one-page report from these guys, but we're sending in sort of an international guideline report on some of our services. And when we're trying to do this process, instead of just, like I said, there are services out here in Brunei where people do say yes a lot, but there's no substance. It's just a lot of copies, where clients then realize later they've just hired a dud, right? So we definitely make sure we are not that, and I would definitely want to make sure that people don't take the wrong message out of saying yes to everything, because the yes, it does involve a lot of work, and we've been successful because we say yes and we
do the legwork.
We do the legwork,
yeah,
to show that we are able to deliver as well as the established companies and better. And part of that process was then with the ISO process that's come on board later. When we're delivering our services, we're like, how do we show these clients that we are following international standards? How do we get a step up? And we were able to do that through the SCP program with the ISO 9001 and the ISO 45001 program. And that's definitely helped us in terms of credibility, especially when we're moving into these commercial services.
Yeah.
It must have been tricky for you because it's not as if there are 25 other companies in the directory which do your services. In fact, do you have any competition?
In each particular sort of division or services, we do have one or two competitors, but I think we've been able to make our service unique enough where we are able to provide our services without too much of a competition.
And the reason why I ask is because obviously your knowledge seeking and your taking to the next level has been such a huge part of your growth. But whose door did you knock on and say, hey, how am I going to grow this business? Because there aren't many people out there who do. So in terms of the mentorship program, how does that work? Nobody actually has probably got your existent business plan. So how did it work in terms of you being mentored?
Right. So we've been quite fortunate through the DARE programs. One of it obviously is BMEN. So we've been part of the mentorship program with Javed as a mentor, which is really great to work.
Now, is he an experienced diver?
No,
so isn't that interesting how this is just so cross-functional?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've had a series of meetings with him, first as a panel with a group of companies, then later on with one-on-one sessions. And despite him not being a diver or not being in our sort of marine engineering industry, he's been able to provide really, really good insight into some of the key questions of a business that we haven't been able to answer. Now, one of our main challenges with this growth has been financing. So we've been putting together a financing application for Usahawan Bank. And as a mentor, he said, that's a really important step. Make sure you do it right, and I'm going to work with you to see how you're putting your application together. And because he's obviously had the experience of sitting on a number of boards as well, he's looked at a lot of these applications come through. Proud to say that we did get our financing approved, and I think he was able to look at a lot of the we put so much information in his application. He was just like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to put that.
Yeah.
And he was able to sort of guide us in a direction with that. And then the next part of our journey with our business was the business structure, which was, do we incorporate? Do we not? Do we follow this guideline? How do we group the companies together? It's been an ongoing question for the last few years. It is still an ongoing question of the best structure. So we've talked to auditors, accountants, insurance, lawyers about this, just to find the best structure so we don't, 10 years later, have a lot of mess to clean up again. And working through this with Javed as well, he was able to share insights from his other companies, other industries in the banking, and different things he's been involved with in different countries.
Yeah.
And coming back to say, well, don't do too many companies because that's going to cause a lot of problems later.
Keep it simple, he said.
Yeah, so there was it was a lengthy discussion, and we definitely got a good direction out of it from him as well. And I think sort of just coming back to the financing thing as well, I mean, we managed to, I think we did the financing through Usahawan Bank, and they had already known about us. And that would be through some of the other DARE programs. I mean, like this today, like this podcast, we've had Biz Brunei showcase us a few times. We've been on the DARE media as well. And that helps to really highlight our business and also our business away from just recreational diving. And that also helped, it just made the process a lot easier, because when we met the management of the bank, they're like, oh yes, we're aware of your direction with the business and we can support you.
Yeah, I think as well, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned about BMEN, but under the mentorship of Javed, we'd also have access to his networks, which is very, very key. I think because he was able to connect us with certain individuals, certain companies, and I think when you're having these mentorships, it's good because you are able to reach out to a wider audience and able to, which may you not have on your own. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, guys, things you wish you knew before starting your business based on this incredible story so far. I've heard that passion is not everything. You don't have to necessarily be hugely passionate about the business itself. Take it away from there. Give me 3 key things you wish you knew before starting your business.
I think before you start a business, I think it would have been key to really know what you want out of the business. Whether it's a lifestyle, it's something that you want to do, that you're passionate about, that you want to continue being passionate about. Whether it's freedom from the 9 to 5. So you want or money, because these things should define what you want, what kind of business you want to do. So I didn't have that option because I had to run the business already. It was just happening, and my name was on it, in that sort of sense. And sort of going from that question then to the next part of the question is understanding scalability and replicability of your business. That is the key questions that I always come back to right now in my business as I'm looking to grow it. As I've now found out, a dive shop is not scalable. It's not replicable. It takes a lot of money, takes a lot of experience and a lot of people, and the margins are not great. So this is the reality of a recreational diving business, which, I love diving. I started a scuba club, but in hindsight, I would not have chosen a scuba diving business as the first business to get into. I mean, you hear about a lot of retired people who say, let's go and open a dive center, let's go and buy one over. You don't often hear about somebody starting it out from scratch early on, because it is just not a type of business that you want to start out with. So I think if you're able to first question what you want out of the business, I wish I did. And then next is to understand the scalability and replicability. I mean, if you look at, for example, if I wanted to...
food and beverage. Maybe.
Yeah, if I wanted to be very... do something I'm passionate about other than scuba diving, and I wanted a bit of freedom, I could have become maybe a travel photographer, where I would work them on hours and I would have a bit of freedom with my time. And I think for me, that would have been something that I would have enjoyed a bit better. I still love business in every form and manner. Every day, I tell Anna I have a new business idea.
Yes.
I have hundreds of business ideas. I love.
He's not short on ideas. Yeah.
All words, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
And if I had wanted something that was highly scalable and highly replicable, I could do something like an online classes, scalable, translate, new country, new market, replicable, everybody gets the same product, automated marketing funnel. So very different businesses. What you want out of it should define what kind of business you want to do before you get into it. And when you are getting into it, get the right people involved from the first day.
Definitely.
From the first day.
I think that's key. Getting the right people, hiring the right people, keeping the right people, and retaining them, and investing in the people. It is a people's business. You spend a lot of time in business dealing with your staff, so you got to make sure that you're looking after them, and you're also training them so that they're with you.
So Thye and Anna, we're here at the Baiduri Enterprise Hub. The lighting looks great on both of you, by the way. Someone told me you're actually a Baiduri business customer.
Yes, I think we've been with Baiduri for a very long time now.
Yes. We've got our corporate account with Baiduri, we have corporate credit cards, and we also have overdraft facilities with Baiduri. And
I think even our car financing and a lot of our boat loans, actually, boat financing. So we had a few very big boat charter projects where we needed new boats, and we managed to get financing to get our boats through the bank.
So Baiduri really helped you stay afloat.
Good one. I like
You're welcome.
that. Yes.
So,
yes.
Thye, we understand you have another second to a new business. Tell us a little bit about Poni Adventure.
Yes. So Poni Ventures, we've been doing corporate team building now for over 10 years. And we've recently been sort of pushing into some new products. We're trying to work with different content. So we're trying to get more certified facilitators, corporate team building content in that's sort of professional and international programs in as well. And we've also just been expanding our range of events. I think we recently did a really fun one, which was for BMC. I think it was last year.
Squid Games.
We did Squid Games.
Yeah.
It was really fun. We were all really excited. We got all the costumes. So we've been looking at how to do more costume events as well. I think they were really fun. And I think everybody just had so much fun with that. And we also did like a family day where we had a big carnival for Petronas and their family members. We've been looking into more staff dinners as well. And
we've also did a scavenger hunt with a car company called Vueling. Yeah, so that was really fun.
Yes. So we're actually looking now at some nationwide events for the public, which would be, again, super fun, whether it's some outdoor related or it's scavenger hunt and things like that, or some maybe a bit more physical challenges. So we've been quite excited to sort of get more people to know about our products, and we'll be officially launching some of these activities later this year.
Perfect. Thye, Anna, thank you so much for your story. This has been Takeaways by Biz Brunei, brought to you by Dare. We'll see you next time.